Hello, testing microphone. Let's check and see if we have audio. Okay, if anybody's there, please let me know if you can hear me. Actually, let me just pull it up here so that I can make sure. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, I'm just getting everything set up. Let's check and see. Okay, we have audio. Yes. Okay, welcome. So today I'm just in my studio and I wanted to paint this cute Dalmatian. One of the first things that I do when I'm planning a pet portrait is I sketch it. So here's the photo reference I've chosen. I've made sure that I edit this image. I brighten it if it needs brightened. And you want to choose a good image. You want to choose something where there's the highlights in the eye. That's kind of what brings it to life. So I've chosen this image from Unsplash. This is taken by Raphael Forsek. These are royalty-free images. You want to make sure that for practice, you can use anything. But if you're going to be using it commercially or in any sense like this, make sure that you have permission and that you give credit to the photographer. So this is the image I'm choosing. I have gone ahead and sketched it out on my paper. I usually lighten it up quite a bit more than this, but for the sake of this video and you guys being able to see the sketch, I've left it a little bit darker. But normally what I would do is I've got my kneaded eraser here, and I would just kind of go across it and lighten it a little bit more, except the eyes. I want to leave the eyes so that I can see what I'm doing and see my sketch. I have a whole video on the process of how I go about getting the sketch transferred onto the watercolor paper. Obviously, you can just draw it, but there's a couple of different methods you can use to get your line drawing onto your paper. And that is something that you will want to know when you take a workshop with me. You will be provided a line drawing and then a video about how to get it on your paper if you're not comfortable with sketching freehand. So next thing I'm going to do after I've got my sketch, I've got my reference ready, and I'm going to pick my colors. And so what I do is I have a sketchbook dedicated to all of my paintings that I do. So this is a painting I did last week. Let's see what else I've got in here. Actually, this is my Daniel Smith sketchbook for the live sessions. Let's go over here. This is really important to me. This has been such a great resource to have. So here's an example. I was painting a dog portrait and I went ahead and chose my colors in advance. It's really helpful because when I look back, I can remember what colors I chose for what color of animal that it was. And also this was really helpful when it was time for me to make my Daniel Smith dot card. So I am a proud Daniel Smith ambassador, and I have my own dot card, which is really cool. So here's my dot card. Most of the colors we'll be using today are on my dot card, with the exception of one. So let's get into that. So yeah, having a sketchbook is a huge, amazing resource. So I was just about to sit down and do this, but I didn't. I guess we can do it right now. So I'm looking at my picture. Obviously, we're going to be using some kind of color that will represent black. I normally don't use black, but today for this specific dog, I felt like lunar black, focus, was a perfect fit to achieve kind of the textures that we have here. So yeah, lunar black is going to be fantastic. Now let's look at the eye. Looking at the eye, I really think we could use transparent brown oxide would be really beautiful. And that's probably what I'll go for. So let's swatch those on the paper first and see if they're a good fit. So I've got my palette over here on this side. Sorry if you can't see all of it. And I'm going to go ahead and wet some of these colors. Get them ready. This is a Polina Bright brush, in case anyone wants to know. I like the Polina Bright. I believe these are the quills she came out with a few years ago. They're really great brushes. Very sturdy. Okay, so where are you? Transparent brown oxide. Let's see. So transparent brown oxide can be used in place of burnt umber, but it's a little more intense than burnt umber in my opinion. And the granulation's a little bit different. So that would be the darkest part of the iris. And then I'm going to add some water to see what it looks like when it's really important to swatch your colors out right before you paint, just so you have an idea of what you're looking at. And then just for reference, here's burnt umber. Boy, was that juicy. Get a little more depth on this transparent brown oxide. Both of these colors are on my dot card. Why are both of these colors on my dot card? Is that redundant? Well, sometimes you want granulation, and sometimes you want even more granulation, and sometimes you want that reddish tint. Where's my pencil? Okay, so this is our burnt umber, BU, and this is our transparent brown oxide. Are you starting to see the difference in the granulation and in the tone? So I feel like transparent brown oxide is a little warmer and redder than burnt umber. But I'm going to go ahead and use transparent brown oxide today. So we have a winner. I always do this just so I know which one I picked. So for eyes, we're going to go with the transparent brown oxide. This isn't rocket science, guys. This is pretty standard. Okay, and here we have a black and white dog. But if you've done art for any amount of time, you will know white is never white and black is never black, because you're going to have shadows. So look at this. We've almost got like a pinkish tinge in some of the shadows. And down here, almost like a buff titanium color going on. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead with the lunar black for most of this dog. And I will probably pull out the neutral tint for the darks of the eyes. Let's swatch this. If you have not tried Lunar Black by Daniel Smith, you probably should not walk, but run to your Amazon cart or your Blick cart or wherever. Try this color is all I'm trying to say. This color is magic. Magic. So I'm just sprinkling in some water so we can get some of that granulation to start dancing. I'm going to go ahead and get this on my palette because we're going to need a lot of it today. What do you think the most popular dog breed is right now? That's something that I Googled the other day, and I was quite surprised at the answer. So Google says the most popular dog breed of 2024 is the French Bulldog. And I was surprised by that. I kind of thought it was going to be like Golden Doodle, Golden Retriever, Corgi. What would you think that the most popular dog breed is right now? Tell me in the comments, because I was going to paint whatever the most popular dog breed was, but then I saw this Dalmatian. I couldn't help myself. Okay, so we've got 2 colors so far. We're not going to need a ton of colors for this dog, but I am going to pull in some neutral tint. Now, neutral tint leans a little more like purpley reddish. Sorry, I wasn't on screen. So we might use that, or I might just use the lunar black for the darks of the eyes and the dark colors. Because in concentration, you don't see the granulation as much. Let's get started. That's boring. Let's paint. Okay. Let's get my reference photo set up. I like working with a reference photo in front of me. I feel like that's important to be able to see what you're looking at, constantly looking back and forth between the reference and the image. Okay, first thing, always first thing is eyes. For me, not every artist does it this way. But the first part I like to start with is the colored part of the eye, known as the iris. Oh, hi, Elizabeth. She says that the most popular dog is poodle mix. And that was actually funny that you say that, because that's kind of what I was thinking as well. My daughter has a poodle, and my sister-in-law breeds golden doodles, which is golden retriever poodle. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is on the colored part of the eye, I'm going to add clean water. And you can actually do it on all of the eye, but make sure you leave the highlights white. So we've got a highlight right here. I'm going to leave that out. Okay, I'm going to take that transparent brown oxide. I'm going to make a puddle of it on my palette that you cannot see. And I'm going to start putting that around the edge and let it flow. Most of this is going to have black or a darker color on it up here. And I'm just going to let that sit. Looks kind of creepy, doesn't it? Looks kind of creepy. All right, same thing on the opposite eye. Leaving the highlights out. You can use masking fluid on the highlights if you prefer. That's been my practice for quite a long time, is to use masking fluid. But lately I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't need it and I can work around it, around the highlights. If they're whiskers or something like that, I'll just use some opaque white medium of some kind at the end. You can use gouache. You can use P.H. Martin's, what's it called? I'll have to show it to you in just a second. It's a super opaque white medium that you can water down. See, I'm leaving the highlights out. And I think that that's kind of the key to a realistic pet portrait, is making sure those eyes have the highlight. Otherwise it looks flat. It doesn't look real. I'm just dabbling in some clean water to kind of encourage that granulation and encourage the cauliflowering. And if it's too dark, we can lift it later. Okay, so we have the eyes so far. And while that's drying, this is what I was talking about. Bleed proof white. I will often use this at the very, very end if I need to add more highlights in the eyes, or if I need to add whiskers. Yeah, anything like that. So this stuff, it looks like it's dried up when you buy it, but it's not. You just kind of have to scoop some out. And I usually just scoop it out with my brush, and I'll just put it in the lid like this, because it's supposed to be like this. Look how thick it is. It's like hard. And you can water it down. And I'll just put it in the lid like this, like, and then you can use it that way. But with that being said, I always try as hard as I can to make sure that I'm leaving the white of the paper. You can also use something like an acrylic white ink, but I try to keep with the water-based mediums, because if I want to rework it or lift it later, if I don't like it, if it's acrylic, it's permanent. So just something to think about. Okay, I'm going to mute for a second while I use my heat tool. I know Zoom mutes it, but I don't know that YouTube Live does. So Oh my gosh, Elizabeth, thank you so much for reminding me to turn my mic back on. I would have probably finished this whole live stream without it on. So what I'm saying right now is that I'm keeping in mind that there is like a little ghost of a highlight right here. It's not white. It's just kind of a ghost. And then what I did is I took some lunar black and mixed it with the transparent brown oxide to make kind of a deep, dark chocolate color for this part. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and start lining the eye. We go. Okay, and that's kind of a harsh line, isn't it? So I'm going to go ahead and add more, and then we'll kind of feather it out as needed. The key of watercolor is to know when to have a hard line and know when to have a soft line. And there's kind of a delicate balance there, isn't there? I'm not used to doing this live on camera, so I'm feeling a little nervous, but it's going to be okay. I've done this many times by myself. Okay, I'm going to move up to my next size brush, which is a 6. I'm just going to get some clean water on it. I don't want it dripping wet. And I'm going to fuzz out the pupil here in the center just a little bit. It's too harsh. And the crazy part is I'm starting to see that granulation from the lunar black. And I'm constantly glancing back and forth at my reference. Did you see what I just did with my finger? That is something I've been doing lately, is dabbing with my finger. I don't know why I do it. It's just something new I've been doing. Okay, I'm going to get a little more of that chocolate color, that dark chocolate that I made. And I'm going to add it here. If you hear giggling, it's my son and his girlfriend. She's here for the day, and they are the giggliest pair ever. Okay. Look at that. Starting to look real. I also want to point out the highlight's never just stark white. If you were to leave it like that, it might look cartoony or fake. Look at that highlight. You can see the reflection of the eyelashes. You can kind of see some color. Grab the eyedropper. See like a pinkish color. So these are important things if you want your eyes to look realistic. So what I'm going to do, another color that I have on my dot card that is perfect for pet portraits, there's 2 of them actually, is Minnesota Pipestone, which is like a pinky brown. And that is one of the Primatech colors, so it's a genuine made from stone. And then the other one is Potter's Pink. These are what I use for my pinks. Pink tongues, pink ears, pink noses. So I'm looking at the center of that eye and I'm seeing kind of a dirty pink color for the highlight. So I'm going to take some of that Minnesota Pipestone. Actually, let me put a little bit of water in the highlight first. Just a tiny bit of water, get that wet. And we want to be careful not to let the other stuff bleed if it's still wet. That's important to know when is it time. And I'm just dropping in some of that. Let me drop in some Potter's Pink too. Okay. Maybe that's too much, I don't know, but it's going to lighten up as it dries. And then you can also soak it up a little bit with your paintbrush. I am seeing a shadow of eyelashes also. Okay, so if something like that happens where it bleeds, just grab your brush and get it wiped off so that it's dry and just soak it back up. And then you'll want to wait till it's dry to do the next step. Okay. On that note, let's also do the inside of the eye here. Once you learn how to do one eye, you can do any eye. Human, pet, you name it, you can do it. Okay. I'm looking at my reference photo and these touch right here. Okay. Okay, right here in the center, you always have like a pink area on any eye. So I'm taking my Potter's Pink, and I do have it in my palette, but I just thought showing it on the dot card would be helpful. And that is really dark, right? I'm going to get a little water on my brush and feather that out just a little. I call it feathering. I don't know what the technical term for it is. And then I feel like that's too much pink, so I'm going to pull it back up. It's all about water control. It's about how wet your brush is, how much water you're adding to your paint, and you kind of have to just get a feel for it. You will not be able to understand this till you actually do it and do it a bunch and mess up a bunch. I highly recommend messing up. It is absolutely invaluable to make mistakes and mess up. Okay, I'm going to add those eyelash reflections now. They're actually kind of pointing a different direction than what I just did. Hi, Chuck. Chuck, the paper is the Fabriano Artistico soft press, and it's kind of between your hot press and your cold press. It's hard to describe. Let me grab a piece of it that's floating. Okay. I'm holding still. So it almost feels like a woven cloth. Kind of, I don't know. It's really hard to describe. But I have just found it to be absolutely perfect for these pet portraits. You know who recommends it the most is our friend Lauren McCracken. So Lauren does like hyper realistic paintings, and that is his favorite paper. And I had the pleasure of meeting him in Italy this year, and boy, is he a character. Let's see. So yeah, somewhere the paper lands just somewhere between your hot press, so no tooth at all, and cold press. So having it's just, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just unlike any paper I've ever tried. And I have tried, I want to say I've tried them all, but I don't think I quite have made it there yet. I've tried just about every kind, the popular brands anyway. All right, so I'm looking at this eye and it looks almost done, but that center needs to be darkened ever so slightly. So I'm grabbing my Lunar Black Transparent Brown Oxide mixture. And I got to tell you, that's the first time I've ever mixed those two colors together. That's one of the things I love is discovering new mixtures. So fun. And then I'm also going to darken around the iris. And I'm looking at my reference photo, constantly looking at it. Oh, and thank you, Chuck, for the compliment on the eyes. I just find it to be so amazing. I want to paint goat eyes because goat eyes are like alien. they are, oh my gosh, they contain like a whole universe in them. I've done horse eye. So I'm keeping in mind this ghost highlight here. It's not quite a highlight. It's just a ghost, just a whisper of a highlight. Okay. Something I like to do on the ghosty highlight, the whispery highlights, a color that I have on my dot card here is King's Royal Blue. And the reason this is even on my dot card is I like lavender for this, but I had to make some choices. And I decided that I can technically take King's Royal Blue and make it lavender by adding a little Quin Red. And so I wanted to stick with the King's Royal Blue. So let me take some of that. And I can make lavender with those. But then I just wanted to have the option of having the King's Royal Blue by itself. So see, I kind of made lavender. So here's actual lavender. Anyway, you get the point. But this color is so good for those highlights in the eye that are sometimes tinted blue. I don't know why that is. Probably because of the sky. But sometimes just add a little of that kind of opaque blue and you've got it. All right, I'm liking this. I think I'm going to go ahead and move on to the other one. And I'm going to go fast. I'm probably not going to talk through this one because you just watched me paint one and I don't want to waste your whole day. I normally go pretty fast. I can get one of these done in under 2 hours. Used to take me ages, but once you start doing them, you kind of get the hang of it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just start lining it. I love that you guys are here. Like, this is just so cool. What a day and age we live in, where I could sit in my studio in an old church in Idaho painting, and I can have, sorry if you guys hear my son, I can have people from all over the world kind of hang out with me and talk to me. It's just so cool. I love it. And I'm noticing this pupil is a little bit closer in than what I'm painting. So I need to make sure I'm getting it in the right spot. Okay. Looking a little crazy-eyed. And I know Chuck because Chuck is on the Daniel Smith live sessions. He's one of the regulars. We love our regulars. You know, it's funny, my mom's maiden name is Davis. But there's so many Davises out there. I feel like it's not even worth asking if we're related. I mean, we all are eventually. If you go back far enough, we're related, right? But she's my ancestors came from Sweden. Sweden? Yeah. So both my grandma and her husband's families came from Sweden. So they're the Swedish Davises. My daughter's usually here on my live streams, but today she has a friend over, so she's doing her own thing. I almost want to make a mistake so I can show you guys how I fix stuff. I'm sure I will. I don't think I ever do a pet portrait that doesn't have a mistake. Elizabeth, so there's 2 different ways that you can tune into the Daniel Smith lives. So they are on Thursdays and Fridays. The times are going to be on danielsmith.com. You're going to click on community. or you can go to Facebook, to the Daniel Smith Facebook page, and you can tune in that way. So you can tune in on Facebook Live, where you can ask questions in the chat, and one of us will ask whoever's doing the demo. Or you can actually come directly on Zoom, and that is through the website danielsmith.com. There will be a Zoom link that you can click on, and you can join that way, which is my favorite way, because then we can see you, we can talk directly to you. But if Facebook's easier, we get it. That's why they've made it so that there's both two ways. So yeah, we would love to have you on there. It's so much fun. I'm still a beginner too, Chuck. honestly, I've only been doing watercolor seriously for about 5 years. I'm not kidding. I only really got serious in 2019. And I just still feel like I'm learning. And I hope it stays that way. I never ever want to feel like, well, I've arrived. Now what? That would just be so sad. But yeah, I love it. The live sessions are, oh my gosh, they're so invaluable. It's free. I can't believe it's free. I learned so much. I have like these sketchbooks that I keep. Not so much anymore, because now that I'm helping out, I don't keep the sketchbooks. I'm usually answering questions and whatnot. But before I became an ambassador, I was kind of just creeping around from the depths of the darkness. Just, I wouldn't turn my camera on or anything like that. So I'm noticing this eye is way darker. I need it way lighter. So I can either try to start lifting now, or I can wait till it's dry and then lift. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Lifting is just such a great technique. All right, I'm going to mute, and I'm going to remember to turn it back on. Okay. So I'm going to take this stiff brush again. It's not too stiff. It's not too bad. They actually have brushes for lifting. They're called eradicators. But I just don't see the point in buying a brush specifically for lifting. Let's see if I have it. Okay. This is an eradicator brush. It's very stiff. You can see the difference. Soft, stiff. And I don't use this very much, but I'm just going to show how it works. You get it damp, not too wet. You just get it damp. I need to pull up my reference again. Okay. And wherever you want to lift, you're just going to kind of, and then you can take your cloth and dab. You see how that lifted? But you don't have this kind of brush to do this. And this brush is bigger than I would prefer for this area that I'm doing. And then lift. And you know what would really make this iris pop is some quinacridone gold. I feel like it needs some light. So I'm just going to add some quin gold to that area I just lifted. And that just brings the light into the eyes. And yes, quin gold is on my dot card. This is quin gold. See that? And if you just do a very light layer of quin gold, that just brings things to life and adds some like liquid sunshine. Yeah, Chuck said all the Daniel Smith artists and brand ambassadors each paint a little different, and you get to see lots of different styles. Yes. It's so crazy. We've all been showing our dot cards. So we all got to pick 18 colors for our dot cards. And it's so interesting how so many of us will have the same exact color on our dot card, yet we approach it completely different. It's so cool. We've been having a lot of fun. I think we're going to be doing that for the summer. So those are on Thursday. If you want to see the different ambassadors talk about their dot cards, you can see that. Also, Elizabeth, those sessions are all saved. So you can watch the replay on Facebook like instantly. So those are all on Facebook. And then they upload them to YouTube. So you could even like do a whole binge watch and go back in time and watch. I did a demo last summer. Actually, that was last July, so it's been a year. I wish there was an undo button because I just covered up a little area that I wanted to keep white. But it's going to be fine. Okay, I'm looking at the eyelashes. I'm seeing these sweet little puppy eyelashes here. One of the things about hair is you always want to go in the direction that the hair is going. That's important. The rest of the dog, you're not going to see a lot of hairs because I will show you. If this is something that you want to delve into more, I am offering workshops. So they are 2 hours long. We paint a pet. Each one's different. So like if you pick a date, they are on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And the link to those workshops I will have to put down in the description. But the workshops happen twice a week, and each one we paint a different animal. And it's usually not determined until like a few days before, and I'll send you a reference photo. But these workshops are going to be so much fun. I'm really excited. Okay. Now I feel like that eye is a little darker now than this one. And keep in mind, this eye is in the shadows. So once I paint all the dark fur around the eye, it shouldn't look so strange. Okay, I just made a little fingerprint where I didn't want it, and that's okay. So I'm just going to lift it. That's okay because black is going to go around that area anyway. Okay, so lunar black is going to be really fun for this dog because of the granulation. It's a very specific granulation. And right now I'm just getting some dirty water and spreading it around. So this is where a black patch is going to be. I normally go to the nose next after doing both eyes, but I just needed to spread that out so that it didn't dry funky. We'll go back to that. Let's come to the nose now. The nose is also one of my favorite parts. So we'll just scooch down a little bit. Okay, the nose is going to be black. So look at our little nosy. We're going to leave a highlight here on the under the nostril. And then we're also going to leave all these highlights here, a little bit over here. So those are things you want to keep in mind. I'm going to start with the darkest part. And I'm going to go ahead and go in with just straight lunar black. I've got my size 6. I could also probably get away with using my size 2 on this portion. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm nervous. I do get nervous sometimes. It's normal. Yeah, this brush is probably a little thick for what I'm trying to do right now. So I'm outlining the nose area. And I'm looking constantly at my reference, like I said. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the darkest parts first. We've got a dark nostril going on here. I'm going to try to leave that highlight. We've got down here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take some water on my brush. Clean water. Well, it's not clean. It's getting nasty looking, but it's fine. And I'm going to just, I don't want this to dry harsh. So I want to start playing with it and pulling some of those lines so they're not so hard. You do not want hard lines on some areas, and other areas you do. I think that's part of the challenge of watercolor, is knowing when it's appropriate to have a hard line and when you don't. Okay, I'm just gonna go back over here because this is the first. I'm sorry if you hear people. We got a lot going on at our house today. Okay, I'm looking over at my reference photo constantly. And I'm dabbling in the color at this point. I'm going to get a little more darker color here for the nostril. And this one's in the light. The light is coming in from the left. And so this side of the nose is brighter. It's always really important to look, where is the light source coming from? And I'm a photographer, so that's something that I'm always thinking about. But not everybody thinks that way. So that's part of the art, I think, is training your mind to know how to think, know how to look at things, and know where light, because it's all about light. This is new for me. I'm not used to the lunar black, but I think it's going to be cool. Now this part of the nose, there's a highlight. And then here there kind of is. So at this point, this nose is looking weird. It'll come together. So this point, I'm going to take some clean water and just play, dabble, feather. You don't want too much water. It's just about gauging it. How much water is too much? How much is not enough? I'm switching to my size 2 for some of the smaller details on the nose, like the line up the center. Don't want to lose that. That's dark. And you don't have to worry about going too dark too fast, really, because you can layer. Just depends on your preference. Noses have that pebbly texture, and that's why I choose granulating paints for dog noses and cat noses and most other noses. Get that pebbly texture going on. One of our ambassadors who uses a lot of lunar black is Rajat from India. He will do often like 20 layers on one painting. It's quite amazing to see. All right, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking the highlights are too harsh. So I'm just going to take some clean water and pull some of the black onto it to kind of like soften those highlights. They don't need to be so stark. And look at your reference photo. Is it a harsh line? Is it straight? Is it bumpy? Is it textured? Does it have shadowing? Just try to keep in mind what your reference photo is telling you. Okay, I'm going to take a size 10 now and get it wet, clean water. And I just want to soften around the top of the nose here and let some of that color just play. Remember, this is a Dalmatian, so even the white fur has flecks of black in it. All right. Okay, we've got the more realistic parts out of the way. This dog does not have its tongue out, so we don't need to worry about the tongue. Really, all we have left is the fur. So after I do the nose, the next thing I go on to is the ears. And I start one at a time. I'm going to switch to a really big brush because I want the eyes and the nose and the tongue to be super realistic. And I want the rest of it to be playful and flowy. If I use a smaller brush, I'm going to get too precious. I'm going to get too tedious, too detailed. So I'm switching to a big brush. Now this one does come to a point. This brush I got while I was in Italy, and it's from a brand that's from Korea, I believe. EO. Lovely owners, wonderful company. I don't know. You can see the website right here, eoart.com. I don't know if they're selling in the US yet. This brush is amazing. I think I paid 20 euros for this. So that is actually not bad. And it's a big, I mean, you could baptize a cat with this thing. So it comes to a lovely sharp point. So something like this, something big, moppy, carries a lot of water, but also can come to a flat point. And the reason I like this one is because not only does it come to a flat point, but it can come to a almost like a wide flat. Does that make sense? So I can go along edges. So something like that is good. I've got these kind of mops. I've got these kind of quills. This is a Princeton Neptune quill. You see, though, it's round on the edge. I like something that's going to be flat, if that makes sense. So there's all kinds of brushes out there. These are the Polina Bright quill brushes. Something big. Just get your hands on something big. This is important for this step. So there's two ways to do this. And they both, like, they're both relevant. It just depends on preference. So I'm going to paint one ear doing one technique, and I'll paint the other ear doing the other technique. And yes, Chuck, you can have the expression, because I don't even know where I got it. I didn't make it up. I probably heard it on the internet. Baptize a cat. Yes. You want your brush to be able to baptize a cat. That means it holds a lot of water. I'm going to take some super pigmented, thick black paint. Let me grab a scrap piece of paper so I can show you how pigmented this is. Like, it's black. There's not a lot of water in that paint. Let me show it better on watercolor paper. All right, let's start with the right ear. Actually, no, let's start with the left ear so I don't drag my hand through the right ear. A lot of artists will say to start on the top left-hand side, or whichever, like if you're left-handed, start in the right-hand side or whatever. But that way you're not dragging your hand through it as you go. And I just realized I dropped water on that poor little nose. Poor little nose. Now I'm going to drag my arm through that, aren't I? Oh, well, you guys can't even see what I'm doing. So, all right. So this ear is lighter than this ear. Let's show our reference image. Do you see the difference? This ear is in shadow. This is going to be quite a bit darker. There's one highlight here, but it's almost pure black. This one, I'm going to need to be really careful to not go too dark. I can go dark here, but the rest of it needs to be light. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I do this technique. But I'm going to go ahead and just take that thick black paint, and I'm going to edge. I'm leaving out the one edge here that's got light on it. And then I'm keeping in mind some of these hairs are white and some are black. So I'm just going to kind of like, and then this is under the ear in the dark area. I'm going in full throttle, wet on dry, super pigmented. And I don't know why I like this technique. I just really do. And I'm seeing a dark line there. Not a lot of artists do this. It might hurt some of your brains to try to paint like this. Okay, so I've lined it. I'm putting in my darks first. Okay. Now, I'm washing my brush, or I'm grabbing a different brush. I'm going to grab my big brush. If you've got a lot of thick paint on your brush, you don't want to waste it. So grab a different brush. I'm getting it wet, not sopping wet, but I'm getting it pretty wet. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to start spreading that paint around. See how some of that has dried? We want to soften that edge. If you line too much at once, you're going to get hard lines. So you can just rub your brush on the paper and it'll soften that hard line out. You see what I'm doing? I'm really just playing. I like to try new ways of doing things. If it works, awesome. I have a new way of doing it. If it doesn't work, awesome. I now know More ways that don't work. Who was it? Thomas Edison that talks about that. Yeah, definitely need to soften those. And I actually have quite a bit of water here, and that's okay. I forgot to mention, I actually have my paper properly stretched to a board with gummed paper tape. I have a video out on that. I just made it last week. It was painstaking. Go watch it. A lot of artists don't want to stretch their paper using gummed paper tape, and that is okay. A-okay. I only do it because I enjoy it, and I enjoy painting on paper that's been stretched to a board with gum paper tape because I just love it. I just love it. You won't understand until you do it. It's not the same as painting on a block. Blocks still have warping because they're not properly stretched. It's just paper stacked together and glued on the edge. They're not like actually wet first. Anyway, that's a whole tangent. But I do have tape because I like that white border still, and I'm gonna lose the white border when I cut the paper, if that makes sense. So under here, this is gummed paper tape. I'm gonna cut that off. Like that doesn't leave a white border. You can't get it off once you put it on, if that makes sense. Sorry if I'm confusing. Okay, I'm looking, this is a white, the dog's face here is white. And also there's furs poking out. So I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to rinse it off. I'm going to get a little water and I'm going to let some of that bleed just a little bit. Just kiss it. Just kiss it a little bit. There. All right, how we looking? Okay, I'm going to let that dry and then I'll probably go in with another layer. And I'm going to grab a small brush for just a second. I lie. I'm going to go ahead and add some paint here so that's not so harsh. This is wet on wet right now, what I'm doing. This needs to be much darker in the shadow. The crazy part about Lunar Black is you think it's gonna be super black, and then that granulation starts happening, and you almost have to keep layering. But like I said, I'm totally new to Lunar Black. Today I just thought, you know what? I am ready to try a new color today. I have painted, let's see, a parrot's beak with Lunar Black, and it was awesome. What else have I done, Lunar Black? I painted the moon with Lunar Black because, I mean, obvious reasons. So now I'm just trying to lift, actually. I'm trying to see what it would look like. This paint is unreal. Have you used Lunar Black? And if so, what do you think? Cool. I'm going to move on to the other ear. And this time I'm going to go and do the whole wet on wet thing that we talked about. So this one was dry. I did wet on dry over here and then pulled the color in. This time I'm going to just wet the paper with water and then I'll drop in the black. And I'm going to go all the way over to here because this pooch has a black patch right here that runs all the way down its ear and its face. And if you catch yourself being too precious I like that word, precious. My precious. If you find yourself being too precious about things, one of the ways I loosen up is I just stop trying so dang hard to be so perfect. Dang it. All right. Grabbing some lunar black and I'm going in thick. I'm scared. All right. Whoa. This is crazy. I don't want to fiddle with it too much. This is scary business. Like I said, it starts out really dark, and then as it fades out, excuse me, it starts to separate and granulate, and then it lightens up. There's this whole science of pigment particles and density and all that stuff that you could go into. That is one of the things that we talk about on our Daniel Smith lives. All right. How long have we been? Whoa, it's been an hour already. Cool. Once I've got the eyes and the nose and the ears in, it kind of just goes fast from there. I'm going to go ahead and help out with this smaller brush. This is my size 10 silver black velvet. I'm going to help this black to spread. But like I said, I don't want to fiddle with it. I want this to look natural. That is the one thing I love about watercolor is how natural it can look. But if you force it, it just looks contrived. Okay, I'm looking at my reference photo. And I think I need to chill here. I know the black comes down like this. And there's some white patches. Okay. All right. Look at this. Look at this lunar black for the win. I'm noticing a harsh area right here I want to fix. I don't like that. So I'm just taking a clean, wet brush, damp brush. I'm just going to kind of soften that out. Okay, I like that. I like it. All right. I'm going to let that air dry naturally to encourage that beautiful granulation. If you use your blow dryer too much, you lose the natural way that the pigments want to settle. So keep that in mind. Sometimes I have to blow dry because of time constraint. But if I don't have to blow dry, I try not to. Okay. All right. And then there are little hairs here that I want to, what's the word? Can't think of the word. I want to show that there's hairs here without showing that there's hairs, if that makes sense. I messed up. All right. I'm going to go with some water along the top of the head, which is white with black specks. So if some lunar black kind of flows in, I'm okay with it. If it's too much, obviously we don't want that. But I'm kind of okay at this point with some of that flow. It's a Dalmatian, right? So I don't want it too wet when I drop the black spots in because I don't want them going too far. So the amount of water you have on your paper is going to dictate how far the paint flows, right? So if I want my paint to go crazy and flow everywhere like mad, I'm going to put a lot of water. If I want it to kind of stay put but be soft, I'm going to use less water. One of the ways that you can tell, let me move my keyboard here. One of the ways you can tell how much water you have is by tipping. See that? You can tell by the amount of shine that you've got. And also, I'm going to let you know my paper is flat. If I decide to prop it, I'll just take like a little bowl or something and prop it. And maybe I'll do that now. That's fine. I mostly work flat, but as I get into the body of the painting, I'm going to start allowing flow. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and wet the whole face now. Let's just do it. You know, it's funny. I'm less scared of doing the eyes and the nose and the ears than I am the rest of the face for some reason. I struggle the most with the face. So that paint was dry and I barely touched it and it woke up and wants to play. So keep that in mind when you have paint that is dry, it could reactivate if you go over it with a wet brush. Just something to think about. Okay. All right, this eye is black, like really black. So if you feel like you have too much water, take a damp brush and soak some of it up like that. See? It's too much. You know the properties of watercolor. You know the properties of water. You know the science behind it. And when you know those things, then you can partner with it to do what you need to do. All right. I'm going to start around the eye. I'm a little nervous, guys. Bear with me. It's pretty dark in some areas, in other areas it's not. So, like, for example, I'm looking at the reference. We're really dark here. And then here. I'm going to feather that out here in a second. Okay, I'm avoiding a flat line. I don't want a straight line because it's fur. I'm kind of going back over the eyelashes and stuff. And that's okay. And then we've got dark all the way here. But I'm leaving the white under the eye for just a second because I want to show you what I need to do there. Sorry about that. I had an alarm go off. Okay, we're leaving a white strip between here and the eye patch. Okay, I'm liking it. Okay, let's deal with that under eye area. It's not quite black. It's got a little brown to it. So I'm going to take some of that transparent brown oxide, like pretty watery, and I'm going to dabble that in right here too. And then Okay. Okay, looking at my reference, I need a little more black here. And I'm just dabbling, dotting, whatever you want to call it. And I'm looking at this highlight and realizing it has a black line right there. It's so funny because as you start to add the darks on the body, like if it's a black dog, you'll start to notice that the darks of the eye have lightened up. And so sometimes you have to go back in. Chuck says that I have really captured the intensity of the way a dog looks at you. Thank you. That is a great compliment. That is always my goal, is to capture that dog. I love handing over a pet portrait to a client. If I can ever do it in person, I love doing that. I've done it a couple times and just, I love when they get emotional and they say, oh my gosh, like that's my dog. You have captured my dog. Especially if the dog has passed on. Then there's usually a lot of tears. Okay. That's still pretty wet, surprisingly. Sometimes while you're waiting for one area to dry, you don't want to fiddle too much. Let it dry. Even if it's not correct, let it dry. You fiddle too much, the painting's going to look too contrived. And it just looks forced. I did one the other day that kind of felt that way. I'm like, oh, I'm not loving it. All right, here's a technique that I like to do to soften the paint is I just take my finger. And what I love about this is my very DNA, my fingerprints are now in the painting, and I love that. Okay. Just softening this around the nose that I just made. I like to call it feathering. I don't know why. I don't think that that's a term, but feathering kind of feels right to me. Because you're just kind of like taking that harsh line and you're just kind of like tickling the line. Okay, so a lot of this face that I wet dried because I played around with this one too much. So there is a light patch around this eye as well. It's just a lot less intense. And because this eye is in the light, we want to be careful. So I'm actually using this tiny brush because I want to be more careful about how much paint I'm adding at this point. So this part around the eye is brownish here. So I'm just going to play with that for a sec. I'm not going to freak out. If you get nervous, you can just leave it and wait for a minute and then let it dry and then layer. See how I fiddled with this part so much, and you probably can't see what I'm seeing, but I can see how I fiddled with it too much. If you can see your brush strokes, then you know you've fiddled. Fiddle-dee-dee. Look at all this granulation. Woo! So amazing. So I'm letting all of that dry. This ear is still wet. If you can feel that the paper's still cold, even if it's not shiny, it's still wet. I'm looking at this white part of the eye. I'm just going to kind of bring in some of that brown so that it's not so white. Like I said, white is very rarely white. Like these highlights don't need to be so stark. This one too. I'm going to kind of play with this highlight here. Don't want it so white. All right, while this stuff's drying, I'm going to go down to the body, and the body is where I get a little looser, a lot looser and splashy. Oh my gosh, my water is completely black. Let me grab another pot. I have one sitting right here. Okay. Ooh, that water's black. Okay, clean water time, and I'm going to do a lot of it. I don't want to perfectly wet this. Let me zoom out for you guys. Woo, we're dripping. We're dripping. It's all good. Don't panic. Don't panic. I'm not panicking. I am going to be careful around the chin, though. All right. This is like a little nerve-wracking because it is lunar black. And this paper's really wet. So there is quite a bit of black right here. See how far that spreads? Oh my gosh. Stop. And because this is not for a client, this is just a dog I found online. I don't care about like making each spot accurately represented because it's not someone's dog. They're not gonna, I'm not handing this to someone who's gonna notice, hey, wait a minute, my dog doesn't have a spot there. But when it's for a client, I generally try to keep with what the dog, their markings and things actually look like. This is so fun. Lunar black for the win. It'd be really fun to go back in a little bit. And add just a little more darkness to some of the spots. My brush looks crazy. Something you could do is take, hold on, that wasn't enough water. If you really want to get crazy, this brush does not do this very well. Drip it and let it go. I don't want to go too far, but I was thinking it would be fun to take some black that is just not black. So I want to make my own black. Maybe I will take some of that transparent red oxide and mix it with some, let's say, ultramarine. Let's find ultramarine. Where are you? Ultramarine. You guys can't see my palette, sorry. I'm mixing colors to make my own black because I want to splatter some black, but I don't want it to go crazy and granulate. But I also don't want to use flat black. So I am making a mixture, ultramarine and transparent red oxide. And both of those are on my dot card. So ultramarine is here, transparent brown oxide. And I am making a mixture. Right now it is pretty blue. So I'm going to add a little more of that transparent red oxide. Now it's too brown. And you just keep playing. And then you can add in other colors. But look, that's getting pretty black. Would you say? Yep, I think I made black. I'm going to take it and I think I'd rather have it be more brown than blue. If it has to lean one way or the other. But I'm going to try not to have it lean. That. Okay. I just want to get a ton of it. I'm going to splatter. Okay, just for the sake of time, we've been on for an hour and a half. I'm trying to keep these live streams to under 2 hours because that's how long my workshops are. And I'm going to take that mixture I made that is black. It won't splatter. Come on. Got to be wet enough to splatter. And you got to be careful to avoid the face. Usually I put something down over it. See that? And the more water you have, the bigger the splashes, or the bigger the... So that's fun. That's just fun. My computer screen and my iPad and my mouse and my keyboard are so covered in splatters. My husband was teasing me about it the other day. He's like, you're a pretty clean artist, except for your splattered computer screen. It's true. I do have a splattered computer screen. Okay. You can see where I mixed my own black. We're getting some color variation. And that's okay. That's going to add to the interest of the painting. Here we go. Let's zoom out a little bit. Okay. All right. I need to go do this eye now. So now that we've done the body, I'm going to leave it. I might go back in. I don't know. We'll see. Now that I've zoomed out, I'm going to zoom back in. I'm going to work on the eye. I wish I could put an image in the chat so I could show you guys the reference photo so you could see it while I'm working. Unfortunately, I'm using my phone for filming, or I would totally put my reference photo for you. I love it when artists show the reference photo while they're working. It's helpful. So I'm sorry that I'm not able to do that. This is dry. So I'm taking this brush. It's too big. Too big. I'm going to use my Silver Black Velvet size 6. And the crazy part about this one is we've got all these like lines going out like that. And now I'm going to go in and soften those because I don't want harsh hairlines on this at all. But I also don't want it so spread out that it's just madness, you know. Madness. Anybody else singing Cruella de Vil in their head? Just me? Okay, I'm noticing right here, there's like a black shadowy area. So I'm going to let that be pretty thick. And then I'm going to go... This is dry paper, keep in mind. Okay, I'm going to take some water and let it mingle. I'm feathering it, I'm blending it, I'm pulling it out. There we go. I'm loving it. All right. So here we don't want harsh lines. So I'm going to just play by just kiss that. Just gently kiss it. I don't want it to look like I worked super hard to create hard lines. So this is really important to me. It's okay if you see some harsh lines. It just needs to look like I'm letting the watercolor be my partner. Partner with your supplies. You're in this together. Don't fight with them. Know how they work. Know the properties of water. Know how it moves. And you know how you do that is by playing. You have to play. You have to make mistakes. You have to say, what will this do if I do this? What happens if I do that? Play. Have fun. Don't be so serious. I know it's easier said than done. Trust me. So right now I'm just dabbling in areas that are darker. Right here under the eye. I'm barely touching the paper. Barely touching. Oh, my phone and its alarms. My goodness. I have to set like 1,000 alarms for myself throughout the day, or I don't remember stuff. I don't know. I don't think I have ADHD. My husband does. And if I do have ADHD, it's a different kind than his. But I definitely have to set up systems for myself. I'm just going over to the nose. I'm just painting anything that looks like it needs more of something. I'm just doing that. And I'm also getting it all over my sweater and my hand. It's fine. Now, if an area is too dark, like for example, and this is almost completely dry, I'm seeing like a highlight where a vein is under the dog's eye in this black part. So I can actually lighten it by just getting a damp brush and then lifting it out. See that? And then if it's too harsh, you can play with it a little bit. I also see a highlight kind of like right here. I'm gonna lift that out. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, cool. Lifting is important. It's helpful. And then I want to say like this right here. And where else? Where else? All right, this is too intense up here. Wow, that lunar black lifts beautifully. Beautifully. I love it. Okay, this is nice. Anywhere that you feel like it's too intense, too dark, lift it. Play with it. See that? Yeah, I definitely went way too dark with this. And that's okay. Now, because I want it to remain playful, I'm dabbling back in because it needs to look. Do you see this over here? I love this. The variations and whatnot. That's what I want over here. I don't want any harsh lines. I don't want anything that looks like I just fiddled too much. Don't fiddle. I think it was Jean Haynes that says, don't fiddle with it. I love that. So this is the only dark spot I should have is here under the eye. Okay, leave that. Okay. So I don't know how to say your name. Hanaki? Am I saying that right? Used split screen and found the photo. That's such a great idea. Genius. I love it. And thank you for the compliment. I really love what I do. I really feel like we need to work on the muzzle, and I'm looking at the muzzle on the photo and we've got that brown again. And so that's where I'm going to bring that. Ooh, I really tainted my brown paint. It's got blue in it now. Excuse me. Let me just clean that out. But I'm going to get some more of that transparent brown oxide out. And we're going to mix that in with our lunar black to do the muzzle. But before we do that, I think I'm going to go. I liked the technique I used over here, and that was with the tinier brush. Adding in the hairs and then going back in and softening. So I'm going to try that. So up here, we've got a couple. We've got some hairs here that are black. They're not even quite spots. They're just kind of like little sections of hair that are here and there. Okay, before I go too far, I'm going to go ahead and soften those out. And I don't want too much water. Just a little. Just a damp brush. This is new for me. This is not something I've ever done before. So you are witnessing a experiment today. I can see that I got some brown in there. I didn't mean to, but it's fine. That's cool. I like that. I like how that's turning out. I'm going to keep doing that. Just adding some hairs, adding the spots very gently and delicately. So I'm doing wet on dry right now. Well, that was wet on wet. I lied. That was wet on wet. Up here. See what it looks like. If you hear screaming, I'm so sorry. Like I said, my son and his girlfriend are in the room next to me laughing and giggling. So they're having a good time. Nobody's hurt. Everybody's safe. They're just funny. Did you see that splotch? That was cool. I'm just taking a clean, damp brush and splotting. What's the word, guys? Stippling? Oh, I did try to pronounce your name. I'm sorry, I probably slaughtered it. You're Dutch. Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you for being here. Either way. So Dutch is Holland, right? Do you know what's his last name? Jan Min. He is also Dutch. He is also an ambassador. He's the best. I honestly get to rub shoulders with some of the coolest people. And I just feel super, super lucky. I'm going to add some water and let some of this marry. This water is dirty. It is not clean water. I'm not trying to make it look like this. It just is. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Whoa. That was cool. Making fireworks. Wow. This is so much fun. Okay. I need to be careful as I get down here. There's a lot of white right here. And I don't want to taint it. This dog has kind of like some black speckling down its nose. Yes, you do know Jan. I love Jan. I love watching him paint. I'm like blown away at his seascapes. He had some health issues this year, I believe, and I haven't heard like how he's doing, but poor guy. One of the important things about painting dogs is the muzzle shape is going to be determined by your shadowing, your values as you go around the muzzle. So that is important to keep in mind. And this is going to be tricky because I'm painting a dog that's white with black specks. I'm going to pull some of that water up. Oh, yay. I'm so glad that you saw me on YouTube, or that you saw me on the Daniel Smith. I only recently started my YouTube channel like a week ago. Well, I started it a long time ago, but I only started posting videos. So I'm really happy that you're here, and I'm happy that you're able to find me. I have a website, but it's just kind of dumb. I have prints for sale, but I don't really want to sell my work. I don't know what my issue is. I just want to teach. I love teaching. I love sharing the joy that this brings with others. Chuck, I'm not familiar with that person that you mentioned. Ido Hanema. I probably slaughtered that too. I'll have to check him out. Him, her. I love discovering new artists. Sometimes I'll just get on Instagram and with the goal of just finding new artists to follow. We can all learn from each other, can't we? Okay, so I put down like a mixture of the transparent brown oxide and the lunar black. And I put it really thick right here. And then I'm just taking water on a clean brush. And I'm just, that was not clean. I lied to you all. And then I just spread it out and let it go. Yeah, Jan, I know he was joining our Daniel Smith lives for a while there from the hospital, and I haven't really heard from him. We should probably check in on him and see how he's doing. We've had a couple of ambassadors who've had some health concerns this year. So yeah, we got to keep an eye on those peeps. We've had a lot of people. Actually, we have had people who aren't ambassadors who are just our regulars watching from hospital beds and stuff, which is really cool. And I will say I did the same thing. So 2021 through 2023, I was in and out of the hospital having kidney issues and surgeries and whatnot. And I was watching from my hospital bed as well. There's something about being with that group of people, learning together, and there's just something about it that was very healing for me. I'm doing really, really well now. I had surgery. They moved my kidney from the back to the front. It's kind of a long story I will not go into, but it took the pain away. I was in excruciating pain on a daily basis. And I still have some issues. Like, it's not perfect. More than anything, we kind of just ripped the kidney's voice box out. Like, all right, enough of you. Enough of your crying for no reason. Because they don't really know what's wrong. So, anyway, it fixed the problem, and I am doing really well. I'm always being cautious that I'm not overdoing things. Because, like, if I try to do too much too fast, I overdo it. But if I just let it dry, I just chill out for a minute, let it dry, or make it dry, whichever you want to do. Then I can come back and I can add, I can lift. But if you do too much too fast, it often gets overworked. Ooh, we're having some wind. I've got my bedroom windows open. And here in the US, it is summertime. And it has been kind of chilly, which is nice for some people, but I've been having thyroid issues, so I am freezing to death, apparently. Not really, I'm fine. I have been pretty cold, though. Okay, I'm just adding in some more darkness. So as things dry, you lose the depth. You can lose some of that color depth. And so it's just good to keep going back and seeing what needs added. And then I'm noticing this pup's got just ever so slight. I might need to add some shadowing here. Like I said, my biggest concern is overworking. It's easily done, quite easily. Okay. Oh, I love it. Love it. You're sick too? I'm so sorry to hear that. And yeah, what's going on? Like, so many people are dealing with so much. And I really hope that art can bring healing, even if you can't make art. And just sometimes watching it can bring, I mean, there were times that I couldn't make art over the past few years. There were times that I just had to watch other people make art on YouTube. And that's okay. If that's all you can do, that's okay. All right. So I'm noticing there's a lot more freckles. I'm going to call them freckles on this side. I'm sorry if you hear screaming, like I said. This microphone edits out quite a bit, I noticed. But if you hear screaming, it's just teenagers being teenagers. There. Okay. I like it. What do you guys think? It's interesting looking at it through the camera versus what I'm seeing on my paper. Thank you. I think, are you a girl? Said it's beautiful and bold for me to use Lunar Black. Thank you. This was very bold of me to use Lunar Black. I have not used it very much, ever. All right, I'm leaving a white line because this cute pup's got like white fuzz on its upper lip, and that's going to be what separates the lip and the chin. Okay. I'm going to add a little black to that right here. I don't know, should I go tell them to be quiet or? All right, I'm going to go tell them to be quiet for just a second. You guys don't have to be quiet, just maybe not the tickle screen thing. Thank you. All right, I done told them. I told them. All right. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thank you, Chuck. Thanks for hanging out with me in my studio today. I love this. I'm going to work on that chin just a little bit more, but I think I want it to dry first. Maybe I will. You know what? It's actually really helpful to look at it in the camera. So sometimes what I'll do is I will take a picture of my painting while it's in progress, because sometimes looking at it through a lens allows you to see it differently. And you could kind of see what needs, fixed, what needs changed. I'm going to go ahead and line this. So we're defining the muzzle. And I'm kind of being shaky about it on purpose, because we're losing the muzzle. And sometimes in order to bring something forward, you have to push something back. And by pushing something back, you have to darken it. So I'm going to darken back here so we can bring that muzzle forward. And I know this dog does not have lots of black down here, but for the sake of this demonstration, I'm trying to think how I would go about this if it was a client's dog and I needed to make it a little more accurate to that dog. How would I go about it? And I really think the answer is just shadowing. Like right here. I don't know why I did that. Don't know why I did that. Anyway, it's fine. I can get rid of it too if I want. I liked it, but it just felt weird. All right, so something that we can do. This little guy has some fur right here. So let's say you have a white dog or a white cat. The way that you do a white animal is by focusing on the shadows, and it's almost like a negative painting of sorts. And that's how you define it. Same thing with black, the pure black. You have to just define it by the lights, by the shadows and the darks and the lights and all of the values. That's so very important. Oh, and yes, you're a girl. Okay, good. I'm glad. I don't know. Hanaki. It just sounds like a very girly name. And it's pretty, even if I'm saying it wrong. Yeah, it is lovely to hear joy in the background. Those kids are so happy, screaming. Look at this. Can you see this? Because I used ultramarine in my black mixture, we got a little bit of ultramarine separation, and I'm not mad about it. I like it. Just add a little color. Okay, now that this ear is dry, hold on, there's a droplet of water here. Now that this ear is dry, I'm going to go back in and add the shadow back because we lost the shadow here. So right here, we have, when the dog's ear is perked up like this, you're going to have a little shadow, and we don't want to lose the shadow. So, and then we also have this whole side right here is dark. I might have to change my water soon. It's getting black. Okay, now like I said, this ear is the dark one. This is in the shadow. So I'm going to leave a highlight. And I'm looking at my reference. And guess what? I need more paint. Again, I did not think I was going to use this much lunar black, but I have a whole new large tube. I just want to use this little one up. Good thing I have enough. Okay, so I'm noticing where the highlights are. And yes, I'm using an itty bitty brush. I should be probably using a bigger brush for this, but it's fine. Honestly, the only reason I'm able to do this live stream today is because my daughter's 13. I forgot how old she was for a second. And she has special needs. She has cerebral palsy. She's in a wheelchair. And she needs certain types of care. And I am her caregiver. My husband had to go somewhere today. He's normally home. He is in between employment right now. He's a contractor, but he's having to retire because of his back. And so he is going into real estate. But right now he's home, except for today. So normally I'd have my daughter coming in, and she's fine. I let her come in my studio, and sometimes she'll moderate for me, which is really cool. She's very smart. So like cognitively, she's totally fine. Her disability is limited to her body. But yeah, normally she's in here either wanting my attention or wanting to be involved. And I love involving her so much. Yeah. Learning not to use all the detail with watercolor. Yeah. I think it's about practice, honestly. I think it's just something that comes with playing around and practicing. I think this ear was a little bit more pointy than, there we go. I like that. So I have 2 dogs. We have a miniature poodle, which she's not small. She's a medium-sized dog. And then I have a I don't know if she's a toy schnauzer or a teacup schnauzer, but she's a itty bitty schnauzer. She's my baby. I just dropped my paint in the garbage can. That is so funny. Found it. Oh. What kind of dogs, if any, do you guys have? Do you have cats, dogs? Do you not have animals? Tell me. Yeah, I am grateful I can take care of my daughter, that I have the physical strength to do so, and that I'm home, and that I'm able to do this rather than have to go out and work out away from home. So I'm really grateful that I get to be her caregiver. We have a very special bond. But the days are coming where I'm going to need more help. She's getting really big. She's going to be tall. My husband and I are both really tall. So I'm 6 feet tall, and my husband is 6'2". Our oldest son, who will be 19 in a few days. He is 6'4". And then our son, who is 17, is, I don't know if he's 6 foot yet. I think he's almost 6 foot. So she's already really tall. But because she's in a wheelchair, I don't like notice as much. Okay, so I've darkened as much as I really want to go over here, because if you keep going too much, it just starts to look like you're forcing it. And I don't want to force this anymore. So I'm kind of wanting to finish that chin, and then maybe I'll take a step back and look and see if maybe it's time to be done. I do remember that there is some black hairs right here that I want to have in there. See that blob of paint that just fell off my brush? You got to be careful of that. Those blobs of paint, they'll get you. All right. It's just getting worse and worse. Let's just pull some of that up. Okay. If, like I said, if you do too much, it can get out of hand, and then it starts to look contrived and forced, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and make that look like it was intentional. Okay, we'll just leave that. Chuck said, we got our dog as a tiny puppy from the animal shelter. So not entirely certain of the breed, but he's a Labradoodle. Aw, 116 pounds. Holy cow, that's big. That's a heavy dog. That's awesome. So, like I said, I like to take my finger and, like, it's just another tool for spreading paint, really. And then I'm noticing there's some darker spots I want to put in, but I want to soften the edges. The hair. This has been really fun, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out. I think I'm gonna leave the body, maybe darken it a little. The thing about lunar black is you think it's dark enough, or you think it's too dark, and then all of a sudden it like does that granulation thing, and it just like disappears completely. I'm gonna put a dark patch here and a dark patch here. I'm just doing a little splatter. And see, that dark patch I just did is already disappearing. So lunar black is fun. It does some weird stuff. You think it's dark enough? Think again. Because it's going to granulate and separate. Anywhere that looks too forced, I'm just dabbling. And then another question that a lot of people ask is, how do you know when it's finished? And it's hard to know, isn't it? It is hard to know. The way that I do it, like I said, is I will look at it through my phone. or I will take a picture of it. Sometimes I'll send a photo of it to my husband and I'll ask him. He's really awesome to know when it's what it needs. I love it. I'm really, really, really happy with how it turned out. I think one more little thing I'm going to do is this little lip here. Just want to make sure I get enough of the little hairs here. So we're going to play with that. I'll soften in just a second. And I love that he's got like this extra lip thing going on right here. Dogs are so cute. Oh, thank you, Chuck. Thanks for being here. I hope that you learned something and maybe you can try a pet portrait. And I hope you have an awesome day. I have been on for way too long. But yeah, thank you everybody for being on here. I'm going to call this good. And one more thing I'm going to do is that final tape peel. It's not going to be satisfying though, because I have underneath it, I have tape, but at least we'll get some sort of edge, right? There we go. Not quite satisfying. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, Elizabeth. Come to my studio anytime and join me. I love painting puppies. And like I said, if you guys want a little more in-depth, one-on-one, step-by-step, I am offering workshops. They're Wednesdays and Saturdays. I will post the link for you and you can sign up for any times. I have a lot of options because I know a lot of different people need different times. And so I just have several options for those. Workshops are just a really great way to learn these skills that I talked about today in a hands-on way. And really level it up. Okay, one more thing I need to do, guys. Sorry, this is a camera thing is new to me. I want to sign it because that's important. I'm going to use my fountain pen. I think I'll sign it right here. My pen's running out of ink. If you don't make sound effects while you're signing a painting, are you actually even signing it? That's the question. All right, thanks guys for joining me. Okay, let's see here. Where's my mouse? All right, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, any questions that you have, post them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, love you. Bye.